Hello, my name's Abigail Maldonado. In this assignment, we were tasked with describing a situation where we have dealt with resistance or with anger in a personal or professional setting. For me, I felt that the situation I will be describing was in a professional setting, but it was personal because it did help me learn to um, just to react more professionally and react with emotion rather than with logic. Um, I first of all would like to apologize if I'm looking to the side. I have my notes to the side of my computer. So, with a situation that I felt that I can do better with in reading chapter 7 on page 202 and page 302, I'm sorry, in reading chapter 7 on pages 202 and 203, I definitely feel that I resonated with the text when it described that it's wrong to separate, that many people feel that it's right or natural to separate emotion from with business when in conflict with another person. But I do realize, of course, through the years that and after the experience that I will be describing, that this is wrong. Just because it's simply because in situations that involve conflict, of course there's going to be emotion involved, and of course there's going you're naturally going to be met with resistance, just as the text described, because change is uncomfortable, and because, of course, some people are more emotional than others, or take things more personally than others. However, emotions are completely normal and are part of the process, and it's important for people, as one, as leaders, and two, in the future, working with children and working with parents, for example, when it comes to their children, it's emotional, so it's important to not try to separate logic from emotion, because they often have to do with each other, and in order to meet somebody logically, we have to first meet them emotionally. So of course now I understand that, but in the moment, I definitely didn't. And this was a few years ago when I used to work at Olive Garden as a team member. I was about 19, maybe 20, when the situation occurred. I was a to-go specialist, and I was a lead. I was a certified trainer. And I was the manager's right hand. And in this situation, I was being looked at for promotion. They were my managers, my mentors were priming me for promotion. And part of our KPIs, or key performance indicators, was accuracy. So, in our accuracy numbers had gone down. So, me being looked at for a promotion, I was tasked with figuring out what was going on, how to solve it, and to solve it essentially. And so one of my coworkers, in the moment, of course, I felt that she was more emotional. Of course, I don't think this way anymore, but I did back then, and it was issues that were reoccurring with my coworker. Was she was not being very nice or very professional to our guests. She was not putting silverware in the to-go bags, and she was not checking off orders as they were coming from the kitchen before being packaged and giving them to the guests. So that's where the accuracy was becoming a disconnect. And so I've had caught her a few times because they had moved me to the front where I could watch for accuracy issues. And I saw that my coworker was not checking off the bag. She was not verifying for accuracy. So in this case, because I was tasked with, I was given the blessing to kind of redirect and coach my colleagues. I said to her, hey Melina, like, I noticed, or at first, I said to everybody in the front, like, hey guys, the managers are going to be like walking all over us. They're going to be watching because of our accuracy numbers. They told me they're going to be watching to see who's checking off the bags, just so you guys know. So, like, let's make sure that we're checking off the bags. And I say it as in a we, so that they don't feel that I am better than them, because we had the same title, right? Other than, the additional titles that I had. And so everything was going well until, I noticed she wasn't checking the bags, and I reminded her a couple times, hey, don't forget to check the bags. And she wouldn't. So I was like, and I became frustrated, which was also emotional for me. And I was like, hey, you're not checking the bags, which is a you statement. But I was like, hey, you're not checking the bags. What's going on? Like, we need to be checking the bags and checking off the orders as we go. So if you could please do that. And I don't remember like exactly what was said, but I have never forgotten the situation after years later. And she was, again, I don't remember exactly the conversation, but she replied back to me very angrily and was like, you don't have to tell me what to do, you're not my mom, or something like that. And I was like, whoa, like, calm down. And because it took me by surprise that she yelled, and and because we were in the cafe area, lounge bar area, and I hadn't yelled at her or raised my voice, of course, but when she replied back to me, she yelled and she was raising her voice, so a couple of guests heard, and, they turned around. And I was like, hey, calm down. You don't have to talk like that. And that was me meeting her with logic and being resistant against her. And she was like, calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. And then a manager happened to walk by, which I knew was going to be happening because they had already told me that they were going to be walking around. And they were like, the manager was like, what's going on? Etc., etc. So of course the manager intervened, separated us, and of course it was embarrassing for me because I was involved in the escalating situation like this. However, either way, for me it was wrong, and I know that it was wrong now, first of all, to make a you statement, and that's probably what led her to be so defensive. And second of all, since I wasn't meeting her and she wasn't, we were already disconnecting because I had already reminded the team a few times since the beginning before this conversation took place. I should have simply just went to a manager and said, hey, this is going on, so that they can happen to also walk by, and for it not to look like I'm telling on her, so that they can redirect her versus me, because sometimes people just, we don't connect with everybody, and I'm not for everybody, and maybe another person is not for everybody, and that's completely okay. But we have to be able to use our resources to be able to get the desired outcome. So there was definitely other ways that I could have gone about the situation. And then of course at the end I did apologize, because then I understood, if I felt emotional about something, and if I felt like somebody was attacking me, maybe I would have felt the same way, and maybe I would have reacted the same way. Who knows? Nobody can say that they're perfect, of course. So those are definitely things that I know now that I could have worked on. And of course I apologize after the fact, for not meeting her at the level that she was at, and first not connecting with her emotionally, because if I had asked her, hey, how are you doing today, maybe, or connected with her emotionally first, to see where her state of mind was, then after that we could have connected logically, because for me, sometimes I feel like I've learned, of course, now, but prior to this situation, I always felt that it was best to separate logic from emotion. Like, okay, hey, this is business. Like, um, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And be black and white in my points of views. Um, but of course, now I understand that life is not black and white and emotion is not black and white. There are shades of gray, and people are so complex. Emotions are so complex. So we do have to be able to meet humans in the way that humans need to be met. So that's definitely an area of opportunity that I had that I will never forget, and that I allow myself to sit with so that I can remember to be better in the future. And something that I feel that I do well is not take anything personally. Again, for me, before it was black and white, like business is this and emotion is this. So I feel that I already was able to separate my emotions. So in separating my own emotions, I feel like I've been able to, when met with redirection, or if somebody's coaching me in like, hey, don't do this, do it this way, or maybe they don't say it in the most ideal way, I am able to filter it through my logic and through what makes sense to me, so that I can give them the outcome that they desire, or that the team desires, or whatever the goal is for that day or for the situation, so that we can meet the same goal. And my emotions are, I feel that I can filter it through so that I don't take anything personally, because I feel that how people treat you usually is a reflection of how they feel about themselves, or maybe the day that they've gone through, or the experiences that they've gone through. And it's important not to take things personally, because just because like somebody's doing something, they're not doing something to you. They're doing this because maybe they feel a certain way about themselves or about their outside world that they can't control. So that is something I feel that I can do well, and think through and process through. And yes, thank you so much.